Thank you, Tim. So once again, my name is Armando Gonzalez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of RavenPack. And we specialize in analyzing unstructured content, things like news and social media, to help investors make better and more informed decisions. And as a business, we've been transitioning from looking at blogs, looking at transcripts, looking at anything that is written and that is publicly available. But today I'm going to talk to you about the next wave of alternative data. And at least the way I see it, I think the data itself that you hold, that is the data that companies have been amassing for years, is really the new and untapped source of alternative information. Now, the alternative data space is extremely interesting, but let's look at the alpha landscape and understand how it's been changing over the past few years. Now, if you think about the last 70 years, data-driven alpha signals have experienced shorter duration, while the number of alpha sources has actually increased. And we are living in a world where essentially investors have to consume a lot of different data sources in order to generate alpha. And more importantly, they have to create different types of strategies or look at different markets in order to be able to get an edge. Now, alternative data may be the answer to finding alpha, but it's also creating problems, right? And one of the biggest issues that we find in alternative data is that most of these sources, or most of these data sources, are actually quite limited in terms of the coverage that they have, or they're very niche data sets, or they have very limited history or no track record. So that poses a real challenge for firms to be able to take advantage of it. Now, I think the next wave is really your data. That is the unexploited data that lives inside your organizations that is totally untapped. And I'm going to talk to you about why. So if you look at high frequency or high velocity content like instant messaging or the Internet of Things, it's actually been growing at a frantic pace. Just in the year 2016, we measured 3.2 billion instant messenger accounts in the world. And it's actually growing at around 6% every year. It's the most widely used form of communication. It's actually growing 2 times faster than email. So it's a popular way of communicating, and we've become so accustomed to it that we don't even realize it, but it's creating a huge amount of data. If you look at email, nonetheless, which is still a very popular tool, by next year, we expect to have about 246 billion emails sent and received every day. So this is huge in terms of data. If you look at the Internet of Things as a comparison, there will be 200 billion devices by 2020 generating data. And that's about 100 times more data than the last time we measured it correctly in 2006. There will be 26 smart devices per person generating information on our behalf. So we're not only creating content when we communicate with each other, but also through the devices that we own and use, we're generating massive amounts of information. Now, the biggest problem is that most of this data is actually idle, right? It's fragmented, it's stored all over the place across a variety of different vendors. So there is no centralized place to actually get the data, which makes it very hard to analyze. It's also hard to know exactly what you own, right? I mean, we're seeing it now with Facebook, and we're seeing it with Google, and all of the different issues that we're experiencing with privacy, saying, what is Google doing with our data? We don't even know what they have from us, right? Or Facebook, what are they actually doing and what are they selling with our data? But we don't truly understand it, right? So it's hard to know exactly what we own, but it's also very important to understand it, especially if we look to monetize it somehow. And there are many reasons why I think you should look inwards and look at your data to try to take advantage of it and extract some value from it. The most important thing when it comes to text, I think in finance specifically, this is an opportunity to actually turn textual content into a strategic asset, right, into a competitive advantage. And the more important part about getting data is, first of all, addressing the problem of being able to connect it all together, right? And there are 4 areas where I see great importance in trying to put that data together. First of all, your productivity data. Think about your emails, your instant messages, your calendar information, all your contacts. Connect that with all the files that live in your data servers, right? And ultimately, connect it to your Salesforce data or to data you have on Dropbox or Amazon. There are relationships between all these different entities and how they converse and how they connect to one another. And if you do that internally, you will understand the actual insights that are living inside your organization. Imagine when you connect them to the outside world, to the news, to social media, to filings, the information that is on the web. When you put all that together, I believe every company creates its own digital footprint. You have a unique view of the world and you have a unique set of data that you are generating internally, but when connected to the outside world, you're able to really take advantage of it. But the most important thing to do first is you need to discover what data assets you have. And that is the importance of actually creating technology around trying to put it all together. Once you've done that and you've managed to centralize it somehow, you're able to mine it and use artificial intelligence, use machine learning, take advantage of big data technologies to actually try to make sense of it. But 80% of the problem is just getting access to the data, right? And being able to connect it and centralize it in a way that one can analyze it. The other major advantage of doing so is that you enable data portability, right? That means you can take the data from one service and pass it on to another. And the switching cost, which is a big issue for us. We don't change and innovate because we know how expensive it is to move to a new vendor or move to a new platform because the data isn't portable. So by connecting it and normalizing, we actually solve that type of problem, right? When it comes to fundamental and discretionary use cases, once we have data normalized and connected, you're also able to share it and you're able to collaborate with others in a more efficient way. If you have content that you've been generating in an instant messenger that you need to someone that is communicating with you via email, wouldn't it be nice that you can just take the excerpts of that conversation and be able to forward that to email, continue the conversation, which might then go on to a messenger on Salesforce or any other tool. But the fact that these systems are not connected makes it impossible for you to continue that conversation, and you worry more about the tools and where the data is. So connecting the data makes sharing and collaboration more efficient. The other point is, once you understand what you own and what you have, then you have the ability to put your data to work. And it's not just about alpha generation. There are tons of applications in financial services, right? When it comes to risk management or risk mitigation, when it comes to compliance and trade surveillance, when it comes to predictive analytics, understanding how your organization is evolving and growing, only comes from your ability to understand your own data. And I think once you put it to work, you'll know how much your data is actually worth to the organization. I envision one day that we'll be able to put a dollar sign to our data and be able to put an entry in our balance sheet that says, this is how much our information as an organization is worth. This is the amount of money that it's worth to us and possibly to the outside world. And there will be roles like the chief data monetization officer or someone in charge of generating revenue from your own data, not just internally, but being able to monetize that data to others, right? Being able to sell aspects of that data. So those that are data buyers in this room today might become data sellers in the future. So I want to thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you at our booth. RavenPack is going to be here all day. Thanks.